It's going to be the Department of Education. Dr. Evans is here. I see Dr. Gavin here as well. Thank you for being here. Holly Spivey in the back being ambushed by Senator Blunt. You know, thank you for doing that. Now, Dr. Evans, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time that you are allowing us to come and present our fiscal priorities for this for 2026. What you'll have, I'm sure everyone already has this information, so I'm not going through this. Sorry about that. I'm not going through this. So the first 11 pages are basically just support information for, I'll present from the one pager you have. Then I'll have Dr. Gavin come up and she's going to talk through MSFF and give you a little more information. And of course, any questions that you have, you're more than welcome to stop us at any time or however you need to do that. So I'll go ahead and get started if you're okay, Mr. Chairman. Okay. So speaking from the one pager, we have 10 pieces, 10 fiscal priorities for 2026. And these are prioritized, ranked and prioritized. And the way you see the layout is obviously you see the priority, out to the right-hand side of the little red dash is actually the increase. And you see the total of the proposed budget that is down underneath above the bullets. So the first one is transferring of our SAOs to our local school districts. And looking at that, there was a lot of conversation around that last year during last session. Would like for that to be able to move forward with that this year. But in looking at that, the pay for those SAOs is extremely low. So you would be in this increase, this $3.1 million increase, you would put them in the districts. The superintendents would supervise them. MDE would continue to have a regulatory arm, if you will, to ensure over school attendance. I think that's very important that we maintain that. But we would no longer, for all intents and purposes, the school attendance officers would no longer answer to MDE. That would allow us also to increase their pay by 25%, which increases it. Don't hold me to this exact number, but it's from somewhere around 24,000 to somewhere around 34,000. So, those jobs do require a bachelor's degree. So that it's very difficult to find those school attendance officers because of that pay. Next is MTR, Mississippi Teaching Residency. The total budget for that, and this would be an appropriation piece that would come. Don't believe it was funded last year, but it is very important to the teacher shortage that we have in Mississippi. It's $6.8 million. And what that'll do in that program, it goes with our universities. It would fund 189 residents of Mississippi to be able to enroll in a cohort to become certified educators. Those funds are dispersed from the department across five of our universities with our EPP programs, those being Delta State, Jackson State, University of Mississippi, Southern Miss, and William Carey. So number 3 is accreditation review teams. We have the accreditation standards that we have in Mississippi that all school districts have to adhere to. They govern everything from safety, teacher certifications, assessment, the whole, the governing body, if you will, to ensure that our districts are accredited. That arm obviously falls under us. We currently do not have funding for review teams to go in. The reason why this is important is school safety is a huge component of this. So is ensuring that we're able to go out. This funding would allow for approximately 25 on-site visits, the capacity to perform 25 on-site visits, which ensures that not only MDE, but also that our districts are in accordance with state and federal mandates and law. Number 4 is the MCOPS grant. Excuse me. That total budget currently is $3 million. We're asking for another $1 million. The goal obviously is to put an SRO in every school. We've made great strides in Mississippi in doing this, but there are still schools that do not have their sharing, counties that are having to share. So currently with that $3 million budget that we have, it allows us to give districts a $10,000 grant in which they have to match 50-50 for their SROs. That doesn't mean that every SRO in a school district gets that $10,000. It's prioritized based on dollars. We currently are able to impact 410 schools and 199 SROs, and the additional funding would increase that by 100 SROs, which would help our school districts ensure that we have the means to make sure we have the law enforcement piece there to ensure our students are safe. Next, the fifth piece is statewide assessment and test security. It's an increase of 2.7 million over what it has been. We are in year 10 of our current assessment window. The upcoming year, we'll be rolling into a new assessment window. There'll be an RFP. That'll be a mega RFP that'll go out for our companies, assessment companies to respond to. In that, some of the reasons for that proposed increase is it is more expensive now than it was 10 years ago, obviously, to do this work. It will allow us, as we have to continue to evolve in how some of the structure of some of our questioning is done. And it allows us to be more modern in our approach, if you will. It also allows us to transition over to a complete computer-based assessment platform across the entire state. Again, like I just alluded to, the new test items that would be developed as a result of this, obviously that's an increased cost. Something that's very important that would be a decrease in cost for our school districts that I think would be very beneficial is we want in this RFP, the goal is to streamline the process so that we really only have one major assessment company. So it decreases the setup cost so that you're not working across multiple vendors. And in that would be for us to create a statewide progress monitoring benchmarking system that would be in line with the assessment company that we would then provide free of charge, obviously, to our districts. Currently, our school districts are having to pay for this. There's several vendors that provide this, but there is a considerable dollar figure across the state of Mississippi that's spent on providing these benchmarks. So this would allow us to do it. And it also would help, I hate to put my opinion in it, but in my opinion, it also would help to increase the accuracy of some of the benchmarking results as we move forward to ensure that we're making the adjustments that we need for our students and our schools. It also, so the test security piece, test security is a huge issue, and creating test items is very expensive, extremely expensive. So I wish we could say over the course of an assessment season, we don't ever have issues with test security, but we do. And we handle those very swiftly. We're very direct in how we handle that. But we're very underfunded from a test security standpoint as far as having people to go out and do these audits during the testing season. Because I say testing season because you know how that is, depending for sure with a high school, fall and spring, but in all of our elementary and middle schools, obviously in the spring. The sheer number of assessments we give it's astounding when you look at it across the entire state of Mississippi. I'm talking about end of course and MAP assessments. Over on the back of the page, item 6 is OTSS and MSIS. You see the increase there. It's more than just MSIS. It's also just to very briefly speak through some of those. We do have increasing cost in professional services associated back with MSIS and running the department. Obviously, all of the licensing pieces, all of the renewals, the contracts for licensing that we provide to districts, the increase in cost there, as well as when you look at it from an infrastructure within the department standpoint, some of our devices that we have are prehistoric. Laptops and things of that nature. So that we definitely need to be able to update some of that infrastructure there because, as we have evolved in our world, even though we leave, we still carry work with us. And, our people need to have the means to do that as well as doing it at work. It will also allow us to increase and provide more support through the E-rate platform for our districts, as well as looking at putting some network engineers in place to help continue to maintain and the operation of MSIS 2.0. Item 7 is supporting the rising cost of services with MSDB. So there's 2 primary pieces there. One is increasing the budget for Braille services. That's very expensive. and we're needing a revamp there of textbooks and a revamp of some of the programming from at MSDB, as well as lots of times we don't think about it because the students are residential, but actually, MSDB runs buses north, south, east, and west. So, and that's on a weekly basis. So as obviously as operational costs go up, it costs more to operate MSDB. And you see that 13.6 million, that's the total budget to operate MSDB currently. So that 1.6 is an increase over that. Number 8 is the innovative programs. It would be proposing a $3 million increase. And what it does, just to summarize that without reading every one of those bullets, a couple pieces, it allows us to continue to reinstate our college and career readiness platform. Right now, we use a program that we provide to our districts called Major Clarity. And Major Clarity is used just exactly like I said for our college and career readiness platform. It also schools are required to we require schools to ensure that students have ISPs, which an ISP is an individual success plan. And in that ISP, think of it as a roadmap for the student's academic and workforce pathway throughout the course of their K-12 career. This doesn't start till 7th grade. Some districts do it in the 6th grade. What has happened is, and this has been something that has been taking place, but has really been pushed forward with the workforce development push that we've had in our state, and also is utilized by our career coaches, our career and technical centers, and our middle schools and high schools. It's a very important piece of what we're doing as far as the evolution of our K-12 world and how it connects back to workforce development. Also, that as part of that is a career interest survey piece that goes back between Major Clarity and a program called Youth Science, which is, not to get into the weeds, but basically it helps you identify what you would be best suited for. And then the other program picks up, like I said earlier, helps you create the ISP, and then also helps you see the pathway that you have to move forward, which, sir, is like I said earlier, is very important to our career coaches and our schools and our counselors and our career and technical centers. And the last bullet here is it allows us to provide many grants to school districts. One of the things that's very important to me is that we don't do anything that stifles creativity. And I think as a state, as MDE, I think it's our responsibility to foster and to push innovative programming forward. I would like to think that in my previous district, we were always seen as someone who was pushing that forward. And it is very difficult when you're trying to do things and you don't have funding, because obviously we know money drives progress. It just does. So this would allow us to be able to provide some of that programming. Obviously, there would be a process that districts go through. And also we would definitely do a measurement of the return on the investment that we're putting in. That is, in these processes, understand that I believe that we measure the return that we're giving our school districts, the funding, because we owe that to you, ladies and gentlemen, so that you understand that the money you're putting into public education is paying off. So number 9 is the early childhood piece. So it is a $6.7 million increase. In this, some of the pieces that are associated back with it is we have increased tremendously the number of schools and students that we provide support to. The student-teacher ratio, if you will, has swollen, and we need to be able to decrease that some. Just for example, this proposed budget would fund an additional 48 early learning coaches to serve 40 early learning collaboratives, as well as 23 state-invested pre-K programs. So it allows us to get to our younger students at a much greater rate. And this is obviously, while we don't have universal pre-K, this is a way for us to try to offset that need. And we're very appreciative of what we have, but obviously how it is, we want to expand the programming to include more students. Obviously the younger our student, it's a marketed difference in a student who has gone through an established pre-K program when they get to kindergarten versus one that hasn't. And it's very, very important to me that we do not limit students' access to that by the zip code in which they reside, because they can't help that. So this is a way for us to be able to provide that to them. And number 10 is the driver's education program in accordance with SB 2695. I want one quick piece here, the $10.8 million budget. That's a general estimate. So working with Commissioner Tyndall, I actually met with him yesterday afternoon to work through that, trying to find a way to make that as cost effective as possible. But that is a general estimate based on the number of schools and basically schools that are currently offering driver's education and some of the programming. There's a multitude of ways we can go about that. We're just trying to find a way that's cost effective as well as something that can be that there's not going to be a huge and continued investment in, because obviously when you purchase equipment, it's going to have to be, the districts then will have to continue that and provide that those upgrades, if you will. Are there any particular questions on the one pager?
I'll open up to the committee if they have any questions. Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I followed you as you went through this, but you've got different increases throughout here, and then you have total budget. So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that these increases are in addition to what your total budget figure says. Is that correct?
So that total budget includes what that increase would be, correct? Yes. So that total budget increase does include what that increase would reflect.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
for number one, it says total budget 9.3. So that includes that 3.1 additional funding.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And that, yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's a very good question. I should have said that earlier. I'm sorry that I didn't clarify that.
Any other questions on this? Okay. Let me ask you about number 6. I see the MSIS on there again. It's been on this every year and we keep funding it. When are we going to stop seeing that budget request for MSIS? Because I thought after last year, and you weren't here, I won't hold you to it, that we were done with MSIS, that we had put over $10 to $15 million into it. And so I see it on here again. Why can't you fund that within the confines of your current budget already?
I will tell you, we're working to get that accomplished. And we're trying to get back to the previous budgeted levels that were associated back. That's not just MSIS, that's also OTSS as a whole. Of that, the MSIS is about a 1.2, is somewhere between 1 and 1.2 of that amount. But yes, sir, I want you to know we're definitely working back towards getting to the original dollar amount that's there.
So would this be a one-time request then? Would this increase, or is it going to be on this budget request next year when we come back?
If we were to receive funding, you're not going to see a huge request for MSIS next year. No, sir.
I see you asking for increased funding for the school for the deaf and blind, inflation and costs and things of that nature. But I haven't seen any requests for the school for the arts in the last few years. Have you guys looked into them? And I'm not saying they need anything, but it's been several years since I've been out to that school. And at that time, they would have some facilities that might have needed upgraded. Have you looked at that school as well and made a determination about them?
Yes, sir. They currently have, Dr. You going? Okay. Yeah. So they currently have some renovation projects that are happening there. They work under Dr. Boone, and that's where these pieces are pulled. And you have some specific, Dr. Gavin, you want to?
Yeah. Just real quick, if you look on slide 3 in your total package, we are requesting 3.5 million for building repair and maintenance for them.
Going down to early childhood, number 9, I think we've, through Senator Hobson's leadership as well, funded our early childhood programs at the highest levels they've ever been. And so you're asking for another 6.7 million. Is this going to create new ELC collaboratives, or is this going to just put new people, new teachers, or I guess or coaches into the classrooms already? Or
It would create, yes, sir. It would, what's the total number? I'm sorry. It would, yeah, I'm sorry. I got to look at my numbers. Yeah, it would create 40 new early learning collaboratives.
40 new collaboratives?
Mhm.
Okay.
And 23 of the state invested pre-K.
There's the appetite. I mean, there are 40 collaboratives that want to come on board then now as it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is this going to be a one-time ask, or is it going to be a repeated? budget amount, reoccurring. It's gonna be a reoccurring, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
we would have to maintain at that current level if we did that. Yes, sir.
okay. And the same question for number 10, the driver's education programs, that's a 10.8 million. Is that gonna be, is that gonna include, is that gonna be all the equipment you're gonna need to purchase for that program? Are you gonna, I mean, that's only, it's like 40 simulators and 4 trucks. Is that gonna be enough?
Again-
Are you guys gonna ask for more next year as well?
So I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I think the number is gonna be more than that in the end. I don't want to mislead you. That's a number that's an estimate, but I do think that number will be more than that. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all I
Yes,
have
sir.
on this sheet. Dr.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And one quick piece of, and of course, continue to ask questions, but I wanted Dr. Gavin to come up and speak to the funding formula piece on the back, please.
Any
Anybody
other
have
questions
more
for Dr. Evans before Senator Norwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Evans, regarding item 1, do you feel that the true impact that is expected, I mean, I guess the expectation of the superintendents, do you feel they got the message? They're getting the message?
Yes, sir. This is driven by their desire as well to have those school attendance officers under their purview, if you will. It's very difficult. 2 quick things. It's very difficult, one, to staff those positions through the department. And they're also here in Jackson, MDE, we're having to oversee them across the entire state versus the ability of a local district superintendent to be able to hire someone who's in the community, who they know. They would become another one of their employees. And I do understand that increase is pretty substantial, but it does make a huge difference when you go from $24,000 to $26,000. It's very difficult to operate on, on that amount of money as a salary in today's time. So increasing that will help. But I will tell you, I do think that it will make a big difference in the return that our districts will get and the services they get from their SAOs. Because when it's literally, it becomes a bit of a, not to be negative, but a bit of a revolving door with our SAOs. Because we'll literally have, at times, we will have one hired, and then by the time they're supposed to start, they've resigned. And some of it's due to salary, some of it's due to just that they don't necessarily, and we ask them to do quite a bit. I mean, we expect them to go into homes. We expect them to, this is something that I will tell you, our SAOs, we have to make sure that we have that process solidified because we do know we have a chronic absenteeism issue in Mississippi, to be completely honest. So I think that may be why the point you might have been headed towards.
Do you have any idea when we would be able to see some type of results? We have expected improvement in that chronic absentee and the truancy, the whole game.
Yes, sir. So obviously we get an annual report that comes out, but we also are working on putting a system in to monitor it on a monthly basis from the department standpoint. The true measure obviously would be if we did in fact have the opportunity to put them SAOs under the local school districts would be that next year. And that's why it's also very important for, and I'm not trying to be ultra regulatory here, but that's why it's very important that we continue to have that arm at the department. I would never feel comfortable with just handing it over and saying, here, you're responsible for the chronic absenteeism rate and there's no oversight, because I worry that it wouldn't go well for us as a state.
Okay.
Not that I don't have faith in our people. I just worry that it wouldn't go well for us. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Dr. Gavin, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. As always, and as required, the department has calculated the new Mississippi student funding formula in conjunction with calculating with an independent CPA. So if you would turn to page 13 in your handout, I will briefly speak for the next 3 slides from there. So our FY25 student-based costs was $6,695.34. So in order to get to the FY 26 student base student costs, we did have $43.52 for inflation. We also had an increase that we accounted for in our insurance premiums as well as for our PERS rate increase, giving us an FY 26 base student cost of $6,842.61. So that is what we use to calculate the full funding for the MSSFF. So if you turn to page 14, as a result of the new base student costs, the amount associated with that is $2,956,734,145. And we also have to include funding for the other programs that you see listed there as we normally do, the 504 programs, the bus training, et cetera, those items that are listed in the box. So giving us a total Mississippi student funding formula FY 26 final cost of $2,970,764,111. If you turn to page 15 in your handout, that just gives us a comparison for FY 25 compared to FY 26. And you can see the various components, how they changed from 25 to 26. Net enrollment was down by 1% of 4,505 across the state. And you see the other components as they change from 25 to 26. Some went up, some went down. Whole harmless component, we do have 2 more years of that according to the law. So based on that, it's down 5.3%. And the final slide on page 16. Again, the formula for FY 25 costs was $2,958,652,725. And you see the various components listed there, all of the add-on and all of the different components, including the other programs. The total change from 25 to 26 was $12,111,386. Again, final ask for Mississippi student funding formula for FY 26 is $2,970,764,111.
Any questions for Dr. Gavin? Dr. Gavin, I have a few questions. So this amount of 970, is that more or less than last year?
That is 12 million more than last year.
Okay. And so I think LBR this year was 3 billion, right on the number. So it's less than LBR.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
And I've noticed that the net enrollment we're down 4,500 students from last year. Is that?
That is correct.
Yep.
4505, yes, 1%.
And the formula is based on
Enrollment.
And
Mhm.
so that would account for a major decline, the reason for the decline in the funding formula, correct?
Based on what LBR recommendation, probably so, yes.
I think there's discussion, let's go to the CTE weight. There's discussion, because the current formula doesn't include the 7th and 8th graders.
So it's in 9th grade, right?
Yes. And so I think there's discussion of adding 7th and 8th grade back into the formula. Have you had any calculations? No, we briefly discussed that, but do you know what that would change it to if we were to add the 7th and 8th grade? And if not, can you get us that number?
We can get that. We have not added 7th and 8th grade CTE students, but we can do that based on the current amount,
You get that to Max and Corbin as well as myself.
certainly.
That's all the questions I have. Any questions by any members for any of the? All right. Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Evans. Thank you, Dr. Evans. We appreciate it. Anything changes, please let us know. Okay? Thank you. That is all we have for this afternoon. Change. I know I canceled the meeting for tomorrow at 10:45, but it's back on the schedule for 9:30 in room 210 tomorrow morning, as soon as after adjournment. So with that, Raj, report. Thank you.